Okay, so in this video, I want to talk about client changes. Now, if you're any creative, you can know that client changes, that word can send fear in your heart. You can get, it's sometimes the worst news, but I want to talk about how you can make it not the worst news and how you can really minimize client changes. And client changes are really a part of life, so how you can deal with them in a respectful way, in a way that doesn't take a lot of time, and in a way that makes ultimately you and the client happy. So, again, like I said, client changes are a thing that just happens. You deliver a wedding film and the client says, hey, I want this change or that change, and you probably have a mini panic attack. So the first thing I want to address is how to just avoid 98% of client changes before you even deliver the video. So one thing that we do that is massively helpful, well, we do a couple things, and I'm going to run through each one of the things that we do. So the first thing that we do is every inquiry, before we even book, we do a phone call with them. And we use a tool called Honeybook to log all the details of that phone call. It's actually how we do all our contracts, all our invoicing. It's incredible. And actually, we have a 50% for a whole year discount on Honeybook. If you're a wedding filmmaker and doing this in any capacity full-time, grab Honeybook. It seriously changed our life, changed our business due to our contracts, questionnaires, invoices, everything. We log it all there. And the reason this is so powerful is when I log that initial phone call, I have a first touch point of everything they want in their video. So now when I go to edit it, I can just look back to that first phone call and make sure it has what they want. And again, I'll put that link below for 50% off the whole first year. Definitely grab it. It's in the link below. So that's the first thing that we do. And then also what we do is we send out a questionnaire 30 days before the wedding. And what this is all the basics of, hey, what do you want in your video? Kind of like, when are things happening? What's happening at a certain time, and everything like that. This really helps minimize client changes as well, because it really helps us see, okay, this is what they're wanting in a wedding video. And one of the biggest things to minimize clients' changes is really understanding what the client wants. And man, I just have so many giveaways in this video. So along that Honeybook thing with 50% off, I'm actually going to give away our questionnaire. So it's going to pop up here or here, and you just put in your email and I will send our questionnaire directly to you guys, so you guys can start using it for your wedding and minimize client changes. So along with that questionnaire, we send the questionnaire with Honeybook. It's amazing how easy it is to use. And then we also do a Skype call 30 days before the wedding with our couples. And again, this is a 45-minute Skype call, and we really talk to them about what are their desires, what do they really want to see in their film, what are they most passionate about just for their wedding day outside of the wedding video. And we kind of have a note, or we put it all in Honeybook, of everything that the client is looking for. And it helps so much, so that when we sit down to edit, we have all these things in the back of our mind of what the client's looking for. And when we deliver the film, they're like, oh, everything we were concerned about is in there, and that massively helps eliminate client changes. So really, oftentimes the best way to do it is to do all this pre-planning beforehand. It massively makes a difference. So in addition to all those pre-things, we find that most of the time for client changes, what it comes down to is family. Like whenever we've had client changes in the past 2 to 3 years, it has not always, but like 90% of the time been, hey, can you add my brother in? Or hey, can you add my uncle in, or my grandpa in? Or hey, I noticed there was only one shot of my mom. Is there any way you can add an extra shot? I'd say that's 90% of our changes. And the biggest thing to combat those is shoot knowing that that's really important to a couple. So what we really make sure to do on a wedding day is during the ceremony, we try to, as much as possible, film both sets of the family. They're always, usually up front, parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, really film as many different shots of them as possible. And I know a lot of wedding filmmakers don't film family photos because it's not very cinematic. I don't know why that's important. Film family photos, because that allows you to have a couple seconds of every single family member, and it will save your butt when the client says, or the couple is like, hey, did you get my best friend from college? And you're like, I had no idea that was your best friend from college. But you have them in family photos that you filmed, and you could just put it in. So one thing to think about when you're editing is try to include as much family as you can. I think there's so many wedding filmmakers that get so caught up in the artistry of the whole thing, and there's only a couple shots of family. You will get a lot of changes. I can almost guarantee you. Try to put as many family things in as you can. Obviously do it tastefully, and obviously you're the filmmaker, you want to make it artistic, but you may get a couple client changes. Hey, can you add this person, that person? That's when the family photos come in. So that has helped us tremendously just make changes less, trying to kind of like put in many family as we can before. And then when they ask for family, it's easy for us to just slip it in because we've already filmed it. That kind of covers everything that we do beforehand that really, really helps minimize changes. Now, okay, say you did everything beforehand, and I think this is what people really want to know. You deliver the film. The client asks for changes. What do? Do you freak out? Do you say absolutely not? Do you charge them $10,000? Do you make every single change and you end up putting in 30 plus hours of extra work? How do you handle it when the client comes with actual changes? Okay, let's break that down. So first off, what I want to address is I think a lot of filmmakers need to humble themselves and realize, yes, you're the artist, you're the filmmaker, but ultimately you're making something for this couple. That being said, I do realize there are couples who sometimes get a little just aggressive and they request too much. But the first thing you need to do is change your mindset when it comes to changes. 99.9% of the time, a client they're not realizing how much stress this is causing you. They're not trying to make it difficult for you. Most of the time, they just really want an extra, like I said, family member, or a little change there, or a little change here. And it really doesn't take you that much of work. And one thing that we do is in our contract. Now, this is really, really important. So in our contract, we say, okay, if there's any changes that are related to obvious errors in the video, now that could be maybe upon exporting, I didn't catch it, and the shot cuts out at a random time, or there's a grammatical error, or, just little things that are just technical glitches. We will change those free of charge. And then we also have a line in there that says, any changes that take more than an hour outside of the grammatical changes, we will charge an extra $150 per hour for those changes. Now, that being said, kind of circling back to the humbling yourself, is we try to give clients the benefit of the doubt. So if they need a couple changes and it takes me an hour and 30 minutes, I'm not gonna kick in that $150 charge, because very, very rarely do we actually get crazy changes because we've done such a good job before really knowing what they want. And okay, kind of back to the whole mindset thing. Oftentimes, when a couple wants a change with a family member or something like that, it may make the edit not flow as well. And as a filmmaker, that could be really hard to hear, because you're like, but it's just so artistic the way it is. Like, the reason I didn't include that family shot was because it messes with the flow. And trust me, I get that. But for the couple, family means more than the artistic flow, and that's just kind of how it is. And what we do is we don't even make a deal about it. We're like, oh, you want that family member in? No problem. We give it to them. They have the original cut, and they have this new one. And for us personally, if we think the cut that we did a little more artistically without that extra shot they wanted in works better, that'll be the one we share. But because we're serving them, we give them this cut. And maybe on our personal Instagram, to show off our artistry, we'll share this other cut. And that's totally fine. You don't have to tell the couple that. You just do the change and kind of get on with your day. And the more kind of just lax you are about it, the better. But we have that contract in, so, because sometimes, the client will ask for a massive change where you're like, no, this is gonna take me 6 hours, or this is gonna take me 3 hours. So basically any change that we know is gonna take probably more than an hour and a half, again, we kind of have that hour as the cap, but we'll kind of give some leeway. Anything more than like that hour and a half mark, that $150 an hour will kick in. And that's really helpful. So I'd really encourage you guys to have that $150 an hour in your contract. And of course, be reasonable, but don't give them too much to where you're like, oh my gosh, I just did 8-10 hours of work for free. And that's why you have it in your contract. So all that to say, kind of wrapping that up, I'll do a quick summary. First, realize that the client isn't attacking your artistic vision, and they really more than likely just want a couple changes. Do it for them. It'll be way easier than making a big deal about it. Granted that it only takes you an hour and a half to do. Make sure that in your contract you say anything in addition to 100 or anything in addition to an hour of changes, I will charge $100, $150 or however much you want it to be. And then if the client has a big change, you enforce that and you do it very, very cordially. You don't say, I can't dare you to ask. No. You just say, hey, awesome that you want these changes. Just want you to let you know that it'll probably take me 5 or 6 hours, which is no problem. I just want to let you know that it's going to be $150 per hour, so it's going to be this amount. Just treat it very professionally and then move forward with the changes if they want them, not with the changes if they don't. And also just realize that you'll avoid a lot of this if you include a lot of family as well as do all those pre-gaming things I talked about before. And then kind of the last thing I want to talk about is what happens if you continually find yourself getting changes? Because you may be thinking to yourself, okay, David, this sounds too good to be true. Like you need to kind of like take a dose of realism. Like if I was as lenient with changes as you're talking about, I would have changes every single video. Like as it is, I have to tell clients no constantly during the year because I'm just always getting change requests. Well, I would kind of challenge you on that and say, if you're constantly getting change requests, like every film that you deliver, there's probably something you're missing. You're probably not understanding how you're actually serving your couples the best way possible. Again, like if you're constantly missing the mark and they're having changes, there's something you're not understanding about what they want. And that will change if you start to do all the pre-stuff that I said before. You'll really understand what they want and your changes will go down. So really the ultimate goal should be only 1 or 2, maybe 3 films a year that you get changes on. And then out of those 3 films, they should be very simple changes. Because if you're continually getting massive changes, you're either, a couple of things are happening. Either your style is very different than the clients that you're attracting. And in that case, you need to figure out how to attract the clients that more fit your style. Or you're not asking the right questions beforehand to really understand what's important to the client. Those couple changes will make a world of difference and will make changes a whole lot easier. So that's how we approach client changes. I know it's a very delicate subject and I know tons of people approach it different ways. I'm not saying this is the 100% right way to do it. This is how we do it. It has worked so well for us really to minimize stress and just make it a painless process. But I also know there are people who are way more strict and there are people who are way more lenient. We kind of fall somewhere in the middle. I would love to hear what you guys do in the comments below. And again, this is not the 100% right way to do it. This is just how we do it. And I really hope that encourages people who are kind of trying to figure out how should I do changes. All right, guys. Well, that is everything that I can think of when it comes to client changes. And again, just want to reemphasize 2 points. We have that 50% off Honeybook for a whole year. I think you save like $200 or $300, something crazy like that. Click the link for that below, use our link, and then also we have our questionnaire that's completely free. Just I'll have the link below there. Also have it pop up and you can grab our questionnaire. So make sure you take advantage of those 2 things and I will talk to you guys later and hope you have a great rest of the day. See you guys.